I'm Nadine Brandes, the author of FAWKES, ROMANOV, and the Out of Time series, and I had an adventure. I traveled with my baby, who's 4 months old, across several states by myself without Mr. Ninja's help. So first of all, let it be established that I have the world's easiest baby ever. He sleeps through the night. He doesn't ever cry unless he's hungry or tired, and even then it's like a whimper. He doesn't mind strangers. And the first time that I ever traveled with him, it was me, my husband, and Halfling, and we traveled just one flight to Phoenix, Arizona. Halfling did great. So I thought, okay, he's like such an easy baby. I can do this. We've already done this once. It's gonna be fine. I had to bring the stroller and the car seat and my suitcase, but airlines check strollers and car seats for free. And so my plan was, we had 2 flights, one little layover. It's an hour and a half. I would travel with backpack, diaper bag on the back, and baby on the front. No problem. My flight was at 6 a.m., which I thought was perfect because Halfling is going to be super tired. That's basically the middle of the night for him. So we got there, I checked all of the bags. I have a great seat. It's a window seat, which allows privacy for nursing, lots of leg room. And then of course, Halfling decides to be awake and to start screaming. Something that he never, ever, ever does, ever. He was fine until that point, but we're sitting there in this silent plane and he's just screaming and crying and I'm like, I don't know what to do. He wouldn't nurse because he was so upset that he couldn't eat, and he's upset because he's tired and he's hungry, and he's so upset that he can't eat or sleep. Therefore, it's like the cycle of doom. But I thought when the plane starts moving, it makes loud noises, which he likes, and that will calm him. Thank you so much for waiting, passengers. We're waiting on one more passenger before we can take off. That passenger happened to be the pilot. The plane is silent and my baby is screaming into the silent plane. It's also 1,000,000 degrees, so I take off his clothes and then of course I see that there's a dirty diaper, so I just changed him on my lap. The 2 teenagers sitting next to me didn't seem very thrilled about that, but I didn't know what else to do. Then finally, the flight attendant said like, well, the pilot's not here, so you can stand up and rock him if you want. So I stood up, and the only thing that will calm Halfling like without a hitch is if I hold him and I'm doing like this squat, swoop, squat, swoop, squat, swoop. And it's like a deep squat, like a CrossFit squat. So I'm doing that in the aisle in the front of the plane because I'm in the front row. So everybody's just watching me in the aisle holding my screaming naked baby as I'm doing CrossFit squat, and swoop, and swoop. But by that point, I basically had like no shame. And everyone was really understanding. Actually, some people were like, we're with you, little guy. We feel the same way. The pilot showed up an hour later, and up, and away we go. And thankfully, Halfling fell asleep during that flight. I had a nice layover of an hour and about 15 minutes. Well, we were an hour late. So, I can make this. It's 15 minutes. I can make it. Well, we're landing in Denver, which if you don't know Denver, bah. It is my least favorite airport to fly into out of anywhere ever in the entire world. Because it is like this long unrolled scroll. It's just this long airport. There's no shuttle. You just have to walk from gates like 1 to 1,000,000. If you have a close connection, you have to run like 6 miles to get to your next gate. I am not a runner. I'm not even a jogger. I'm not even really a fast walker. By the time we get into the gate, I have 7 minutes until my next flight leaves. Not boards, but leaves. And I have a sleeping baby. I strap Halfling in and I get the backpack on. I put the boppy pillow like over the backpack behind my head. So the minute they open the doors, I'm like up and I'm out and I go and I check my gate. I landed at B11 and my next gate is B83. 83, you guys. I had 7 minutes to run like 70 gates. So I just start booking it, and I'm like going back to my days in 8th grade when I did track just because that was the only sport my school had, not because I actually wanted to do it. Anyway, I'm booking it and I'm like sweating, but I had to use the restroom so badly and I was like plane flight or toilet. I went to the restroom. I couldn't run 70 gates with a full bladder. Are you kidding me? Now I have like 4 minutes and I'm barely making any headway at all. It's just like, yay, I've passed 4 gates. And I'm using the little movable tracks and everything. So I'm looking for those people who drive the carts, who drive people around in the carts. And anytime I'm in an airport, I'm like, I wish I was one of those people who could ride in those carts and not have to walk to my gate. Well, this time I was like, I have a baby. I'm late for my flight. If I see a cart person, I'm flagging them down no matter what. I see all of these empty carts everywhere, but nobody driving them. They're just sitting there. I'm tempted to pull like a Hollywood movie and jump in the cart and like drive it on my own. I get onto one of the moving walkways, and as I step onto it, I see a guy in a cart, an empty cart, but I'm on the walkway going the wrong way. So I did what any desperate mother who's late for her flight would do. I turned around on the walkway like a 5-year-old who runs the wrong way on an escalator, and I'm like running the wrong way on the walkway. Halfling's like bouncing around, so I'm trying to hold him, and I'm running the wrong way, and it's like I'm not moving because the walkway's going this way, and I'm running this way, and I'm like, like barely moving, and people are coming onto the walkway the right way, and I'm like dodging around them with my baby and my backpack and my boppy, yelling like, sir, wait, can I get a ride to gate B83? Thankfully, the cart man saw me, and I'm like melting, and baby's still asleep. I don't know how. I hop into the cart as he starts going. He's like beep, 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 and it still takes us like 5 minutes to even get to my gate, and he can't even take me there because the gate is so far away that it's down like this long glass hallway, down the escalators, and then down another hallway, and the cart can't go down escalators, so he had to drop me off, and I go down the escalators. My knees are like jelly. Halfling is still asleep, and finally I see my gate in the distance. The airplane is still at the gate, and the gate agent looks up at me and he goes, oh, and gives me the sad little face, and I'm like, no. I get up there and he's like, we literally just closed the door. There was nothing he could do. I missed my flight. But then he said, well, are there any other airports that you could fly into? And I'm like, yes, there are, because my family's house is here. Airport number 1 was my original destination. But then there's airport number 2. That's the same distance from my family who's picking me up. And so I was like, yeah, take me to airport number 2. The next flight to airport number 1 was like hours and hours and hours later. He books me a flight to airport number 2. Yay, it's only like 2 hours. And he's like, oh, well, guess what gate it is? Yeah, all the way back to B11. Like, hey, thanks. So I get my new tickets and just take like an hour to walk there really, really slowly, trying to recover. I was recovering. We finally get there, and Halfling wakes up. I tried to feed him. He didn't eat. And then there's a gate change. Go figure. All the way back. All the way back. If you're wanting a really good workout, do CrossFit squats in an airplane aisle and then walk 19 miles in the Denver airport. And so I get onto this next flight to airport number 2. This seat is all the way in the back, like the third to last row, and I'm on the aisle. And I think, okay, it's really hard for me to nurse him on the aisle seat because there's like the side that's on the aisle and everyone can see what you're doing on the aisle. And then there's this side right next to a stranger, and that's awkward. But I thought, I am mother, I can do this. Halfling, of course, decided, we're on a plane, I'm gonna scream again. So we took off, and he screamed, and we climbed, and he screamed, and just screaming. And so I tried to feed him on the aisle side with like a jacket over, and he wouldn't eat because he was just screaming so much. Everyone was still very, very nice, but the little INFJ inside of me was like, they all hate me! And right as we reached cruising altitude, Halfling calmed enough where I'm like, I can feed him. But then everybody got up to use the restroom, and I was in the back, right next to the restroom, and they did that thing that you're not supposed to do in airplanes. Please do not congregate inside of the aisles when you're waiting for the lavatory. They congregated. There were like 6 people congregated in the aisle, all dudes, right next to me. I'm sitting here, right here, and I'm like, I need to feed my baby. There was really nothing else for it. I got up and I congregated too, with my baby, with my screaming baby, and I stood in line for the lavatory. And finally, when it was my turn for the lavatory, I locked myself in there with my baby, and I was not leaving until he ate food. Bing! Ladies and gentlemen, please go back to your seats and put your seatbelts on. We're entering some turbulence. It's like a movie you you guys. I'm in the lavatory nursing my baby. He had just started to eat, and then it's like, "Rah!" But I was not coming out of that bathroom. So I just like planted my feet against the door and the wall, and I'm sitting there pushing myself against the back to hold still so that I can hold baby and feed him, and I'm literally just nursing a baby, while the plane is all turbulent, waiting until he finally eats. So, finally he ate, changed his diaper, he was calm, get back into my seat, and all is well. We land at airport number 2. We see my mom and my niece and nephew who both get to meet Halfling, and it was just so sweet and wonderful. And then, of course, as we're waiting for my luggage, we're just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. All of my luggage, including the car seat, went to airport number 1. We're at airport number 2. So my mom, being the amazing person she is, she's like, well, I should have a car seat in my car anyway. She buys a car seat so that we can have a car seat to get Halfling home. And finally, after the endless day of traveling, I make it to my family. Around 11 p.m. that night, the airlines delivered all of my luggage. And there was peace. The ring was destroyed. Voldemort was vanquished. All of the things were defeated. And I was home, and I napped a long time. That's my travel story, and maybe if I'm lucky it'll be turned into a Hollywood movie and I'll get some royalties or something. Having done all of this, all that happened was totally manageable. Even though he cried, people were kind. Even though he wouldn't eat, I could lock myself in a lavatory and feed him. Even though I lost my luggage, the airline delivered it. Even though I missed my flight, I still got there like a couple hours later. I was surrounded by nice people, and I realized even though I was anxious about offending people or bothering people, that didn't even need to be a concern. People were so kind. The flight attendants were extremely helpful. Yeah, it wasn't a smooth flight, but all the things that needed to happen happened, and it all ended up being fine. So I learned just that those anxieties that I had didn't need to control me because I was taking care of my baby. And honestly, in those moments, I was so focused on Halfling that it's like those nerves just disappeared, because instead I was thinking, what does he need? What can I do? How can I comfort him? So that's the story of the week on Nadine Brandes' life. Thanks for tuning in. What's a crazy travel story that you have had? Let me know down below in the comments. If you want to keep up on my videos where I talk writing, publishing, and all of the bookish things, and traveling with a 4-month-old baby, please click subscribe or the little bell icon that gives you an email alert every time I post a new video. So with that, tally ho!